poorly. Have the Niners entered fuck around and find out territory? What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Networks. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Levin Black. Levin, I would say happy Thursday, but it's not a very happy Thursday right now. It's just a regular Thursday and maybe a crappy Thursday.
That's where we've been for a month now with the Niners. Oh, Aiyuk's definitely traded. Oh, wait, no, he's not. We've gotten the same updates for a month now of he's about to be traded. Oh, he's about to be signed. And yeah, I mean, every day is the same. And it's Trent Williams has been no news pretty much until what you got today.
Right. And that's where we're going to start today. We'll get to Brandon Aiyuk. We'll get to a new feature that we're going to do on the show that I'm totally springing on Levin on the fly, which I take great pleasure in. But we got to start with Trent Williams because we're all kind of sitting around waiting and wondering what's going to happen. We all assume it's going to get done. And then I see this from Diana Rossini. This is aggregated by NBC Sports Bay Area. Quote, no significant movement between Williams and the 49ers on a new deal. And I just don't understand it, Levin. What are they doing? Why are they like this? It's one thing if you want to say with Aiyuk, whatever. We don't think he's worth it. We've got other receivers. Whatever. With Trent Williams, that's not the same discussion. He's the best left tackle in the league. They have no replacement for him whatsoever. And I don't think anybody could argue he's not underpaid. Like, get the deal done. Why are they like that? How could there be no significant movement in all this time?
It's because of the current situation with Trent's deal. It's this is one where I go a little bit more towards the team because they are hamstrung with Trent. Currently, he has cap hits if he plays this year of $30.7 million. Then next year it climbs to I think 36 or 37 million, and then the next year is 38 million. They've already redone his deal multiple times to push salaries into signing bonuses to kick the can down the road. He is signed to play. He has a void year 1 year after that. I'm not counting that. He is signed to play through his age 38 season. How do you add more than 3 years? That's him playing 3 more seasons to a guy who keeps talking about retirement. Because what happens is if you keep doing that and you add a year where he plays at age 39, plays at age 40 to get the current caps to be at the level that they are now or lower, but also giving him extra money. The problem is if he retires at 37 or 38, all that money comes and he destroys the cap and the Niners have to release Fred Warner, release George Kittle, release Debo, Brandon Aiyuk in 2 years if he gets re-upped. Like, it would absolutely destroy the cap at that point to where you have to destroy the team. So you can't really give him new money. And at the same time, he's being paid at the top of the market currently.
He's not at the top of the market, though. Multiple tackles have signed deals. You're telling me they can't structure the contract in such a way that if he retires, they don't owe him any money. You're telling me that's impossible?
It's very, very hard because the way that they get a guy who's getting paid 30 plus million a year, which is what he would be getting, to have his caps not be astronomical is to give a huge signing bonus. If you give a huge signing bonus and the guy retires the next year, you can go after that money of the signing bonus. But in terms of the cap, it all becomes a cap hit that year. So if he gets, say, a $30 million signing bonus so that he gets $30 million this year, which is what his problem is. I can go into why Trent Williams isn't happy with his contract, but that $30 million gets prorated, let's say, over the next 4 years. So you have 7.5 per year. Well, the first year is 7.5 this year. If he retires after this year, you're going to have 22.5 million of that hitting. He already has a prorated salary or signing bonus at 10 million per season. So you add all of that together. Like it becomes really, really hard for the Niners to do it unless they tear up the current contract completely. And even then it's hard. He currently has cap hits of 30.7 million this year, 37 next year, and 38 the year after that. His cap hits are astronomical. But when you're signed to play through your age 38 season, it's hard to add years to give you new money and keep the cap from going up. You see what I'm saying? Like
But
they don't have the wiggle room like that.
They can rip up the contract and just sign a new contract. Both sides can agree to take the current contract he has and rip it up, and then it turns into dust. As long as both sides agree to do that, they can. They can't come up with something that works. Like let me read the update. Quote, this is Diana Rossini from the Scoop City podcast. Trent Williams is still holding out, and he still has not been given the guaranteed money he's looking for. He's still in that space. There's been no significant movement there from what I was told. Now, if you scroll down later, she says, quote, I think it gets worked out. It has got to get worked out for the San Francisco 49ers. They need Trent Williams. I just feel like, again, none of this caught them by surprise, right? Like John Lynch has said they've known about it. They've been working on it. How could there not even have been any progress to this point? It just seems like there is no urgency from the 49ers, and it's ridiculous.
It is. Like I blame the team for a lot of these things because these could have been dealt with a long time ago, and they tend to sit and wait, hoping the players budge. The problem for Trent Williams is he's looking at his contract and saying, I have a salary of $20.5 million this year. I think it goes to something like 22 next year and the year after that. That's all in terms of actual cash going in his pocket that he has is 20.5 million, 22 and 22. For him, he's saying, hey, that's vastly underpaying me. The Niners are saying, hey, we paid you 10 million of that already because that's the prorated signing bonus amount. So what are you complaining about? You can't say, hey, I got 60 million last year, but this year I'm only getting 20. I'm underpaid. Give me a new contract. And that's kind of, I think Trent is just wanting what Christian McCaffrey got. Guarantee the rest of his contract. And if that's what he's wanting, I don't know why the Niners wouldn't do that.
This is the thing. When they kicked the can down the road with Trent Williams, they knew this was coming. They knew what the situation was going to be. So now to act like you're unprepared for it or like this is some big struggle, you had to know this was coming when you kicked the can down the road. And so again, what is the plan here? Why does it seem like we're always struggling to do basic stuff? It drives me crazy. And I feel like it is totally going under the radar because everyone's so focused on Brandon Aiyuk.
That's completely true. Like this Trent Williams thing would be a big deal if Brandon Aiyuk was signed or traded already. It is going under the radar. And I think part of that is that there's zero chance of him getting traded. And everybody just assumes he's going to play because it's not like he's underpaid. He is being paid like what his contract was and currently is. Like he has huge cap numbers. So there is, if they want to tear up the contract completely and redo it, they could do like a 3-year, $100 million contract where he gets 33.3 per. Just doing the numbers quick, if they gave him a $30 million signing bonus on top of that, you could get him in for, you're looking at about what he is currently. That would be a salary of about $23 million a year plus the $10 million prorated signing bonus. So you're looking at $33 million for a year one cap if they kept the salaries the same every single year, which they probably wouldn't. They would have his salary this year be a little bit less and have it bigger in the previous years. But like I said, he has a current cap number of 30.7. So if it goes to 33, are you really that concerned over 2 million? And like I said, they could shift his salary down to say 15 million this year and make that year one cap 8 million less, which then gets him to where you're saving money on this year's cap by doing it.
Just saw a tweet we're definitely going to want to talk about. Member of the 49ers beat is calling me out. Happens to be one of the people that hosts a show on this network with me.
It's not Dan Orlovsky. I saw that one.
Yeah, me and Dan Orlovsky got into it on Twitter.
I'll say this. You're not always right, but when it comes to quarterbacks, Dan Orlovsky is a former quarterback. I do not take his quarterback takes for being worth anything. He is always wrong on the quarterbacks. It is amazing to me that he is always wrong on the quarterbacks. He like has this belief. One, he's too nice of a guy. He never wants to say somebody's terrible. Two, he has this belief that, oh, anybody can get over the mental hurdle of the game. And I think it's because for him, that's all he was. You know, he was a limited physical quarterback who was very good at the mental. I think he has a blind spot for if a guy hasn't figured out the mental aspect after a few years, he's never going to figure it out.
If we're talking about Sam Darnold, because Orlovsky posted a video about Sam Darnold, why he thinks he's going to be good. And I responded with my usual Sam Darnold take, which everybody knows by now, which we don't have to get into. But then he responded to me. So he and I were going back and forth. And then he did the thing that everybody does when you prove an argument factually. He says, well, you just don't like him.
Yeah.
No.
You know what you should do? You should respond to him and say, if Sam Darnold remains the starter in Minnesota all year, he's good enough to remain the starter, I will put his jersey up behind me for the entire next season. If he's not, the moment he's benched, you have to come on my show that week.
I mean, look, the proof is in the pudding. I've already been proven right on this. So,
yeah, why not take it easy, get Dan Orlovsky on your show?
Yeah, true. All right. Let's play the true false, or not the true false. Let's play fill in the blank. We talked about Trent Williams. Nothing new happened with Brandon Aiyuk. He showed up to practice for the first time since July 31st. Yay.
Is this like Mad Lib version or a little less crazy? Like, should I try to be logical or try to make it fun?
Oh, do whatever you want. That's the whole point of the game. First,
you know what a Mad Lib is, correct?
Yeah, I know what a Mad Lib.
Okay, just making sure.
Fill in the blank. Blank should be the backup running back for the 49ers.
Jordan Mason. That's cut and dry. I thought that last year.
That's all you have to add?
Yeah. He's clearly the second best running back. I would argue in terms of running the ball, he might be on par with Christian McCaffrey. Now, obviously, he loses a lot in terms of the dual threat ability, the ability to catch the ball, run routes, all of that. And he might not be as good of a blocker because he has struggled with the mental aspect of learning when to block and things like that. And that's why he hasn't played that much from what we've heard. But in terms of actual running the ball, he's clearly right there with McCaffrey, in my opinion.
I agree. I think it should be Jordan Mason. Elijah Mitchell's great, but he's just not reliable. It's nothing against him when he's on the field and playing. He's probably a better overall all-around player than Jordan Mason. But I just can't depend on you. So I
would argue that point, but it's an argument of I'm never going to be able to prove you wrong because there's no substance for Eli Mitchell. There's no proof to go, this is what he did, because what he did was 3 years ago.
I would say in terms of pass blocking, in terms of receiving, I think he's better than JP Mason right now, but I can't rely on you. And every time Jordan Mason gets on the field, he plays well. He's like a no nonsense, just straight ahead, hit the hole as hard as possible. To me, it's like exactly what you want in a backup running back. So
if this was Mike Shanahan's team, he would have traded Christian McCaffrey and started Jordan Mason because that was his MO. Oh, I got a good running back. I'm going to trade him and start the backup now.
All right, let's move on to question number 2. Fill in the blank. The person most to blame for Brandon Aiyuk not being signed is?
Singular person. I will go Jed York.
Why?
Because one, the buck stops with him. If he wanted it done, he could have interjected at any point. When they didn't send him an offer from May until like a week ago, that's a spot where the owner should be stepping in and saying, negotiate with him or trade him. We're not waiting to the training camp. Get some movement going here. 2, at this point, it's being reported that the guarantees or the holdup and the guarantees are usually the owner because that's where the owners care the most.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the holdup right now is currently Jed York versus Brandon Aiyuk. I think before it was more the front office and the salary cap implication and all those things. But my point is, like, Jed York could have gotten involved then, and now he is involved.
I'm going to go with Kyle Shanahan only because we've seen in past instances where somebody has said, Kyle, fix this with Trent Williams, and Kyle did at the last hour, and the deal was signed. Now, look, if what you're saying is true and Jed just flat out refuses to go over a certain number, there's nothing Kyle Shanahan can do. It seems weird to me that he would suddenly draw the line at Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe he is. Maybe you're right. But for the sake of this, for the sake of being a little different, I'll say Kyle Shanahan because, you know, what happened with the Debo thing? Well, I'm confident I could fix it because of my relationship with the... Okay, cool. And he did. Great. We have not seen that with this. We still have this freaking issue. This is the part that drives me crazy, Levin. Neither side wants to, like, depart. Like, both sides want to be together, yet we still don't have a deal. That's the infuriating thing for me. So I'll
It's
take Kyle.
almost a toxic relationship because, yeah, both sides want to be together, but Kyle Shanahan and Brandon Aiyuk clearly don't see eye to eye on things. I mean, you have the whole doghouse thing that we know is now a fact. But even this, like, as you mentioned, he has not talked about it in the same way that he has Debo. Oh, I know I can fix it because of the relationship I have. He has not said that. And from what people have reported, now this is unconfirmed, obviously, but it's been reported that Kyle Shanahan got upset that Brandon Aiyuk showed up but refused to practice. Well, that's on Kyle Shanahan, but that just shows, like, okay, you're being hypocritical here because others have shown up and not practiced. Others have not shown up at all, and you haven't had a problem with it. But somebody's showing up so they can still be part of the team, but just not practicing because they're holding out. Isn't that like them meeting you in the middle? So why would you be upset at that? So it feels like just Kyle Shanahan and Brandon Ayuk's dynamic is what the holdup is. If it was a Debo situation, Kyle would have made it get done already.
They have never vibed with one another. They really haven't, which is crazy because Kyle, I'll never forget Kyle like being so excited when they drafted him. He was like pumped up, and then from the second he got in there, basically, he's had a problem with him. He has not been satisfied with what something that Brandon Aiyuk has done or not done, and it's continuing to haunt them to this very day. All right, moving on and fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. This offense will be blank if Aiyuk isn't on the 49ers this season.
One-dimensional.
Really? You think they're not?
We've seen it.
We
have seen this offense without a deep threat. We saw it in 2018, 2019. We saw it in 2020 prior to, now there's so many injuries that year, you kind of throw that year out, but Aiyuk was a rookie, hadn't emerged yet. But we saw the limited ability. They couldn't take the top off the defense. That was a refrain for 3 years. That's what we talked about the first year we were together doing a podcast, was this offense needs a deep threat. And they went and they were desperate for it. So they traded a pick in the middle of the season to get Sanders in the Super Bowl year. But Sanders, while he did an okay job, he wasn't quite good enough either. He certainly wasn't Brandon Aiyuk. Without Brandon Aiyuk, your wide receivers are Jennings and Debo. Neither one of them are doing anything past 15 yards, period. Like the only times Jennings and Debo have had a reception deeper than that, it's because of the effect Aiyuk has had of making the safeties back up even further and go with Aiyuk, and then they come underneath. Like, this offense will become something where defenses are probably playing only a single safety, and they're cheating way down. You need Aiyuk for this offense to not be one-dimensional.
Nick Eller says Aiyuk's deal is done. Signing contract and doing physical today. This is going to be pointless. How do we know?
Hope so.
What are you basing that on, Nick? If you have news and you want to break some, great. But like, what? Why are you acting like you know this is a done deal? And look, I appreciate your support. You're a YouTube channel member. I love that. Thank you. We love all our YouTube channel members. It's less than $3 a month. Just updated a lot of the new emojis that you can use. You get priority comment response, so please do it. Chad Marshall says, like Jason Aponte said, just get it done so I can be mad about it. Yeah, that was a pretty funny line from Jay. It's kind of true. I'm going to fill in the blank. I'll say this offense will be fine if Aiyuk isn't on the 49ers this season.
So define fine, because I've told you, I think the offense will still statistically be a top 10 offense. The problem will rear its head when they play the really good offense or defenses, and that will come in the playoffs. They will run into a defense that's good enough to limit McCaffrey and Debo at the same time, and then you're screwed.
I mean, you still have an all-pro wide receiver, an all-pro tight end, and an all-pro running back, right? 3 all-pros at the same time on offense. If you can't figure it out, it's like, no one's crying poor for the 49ers. No one's feeling bad for the Niners because Brandon Aiyuk isn't there. What I think they will do is I think they will use George Kittle as a receiver more. And I think he will be the one to pick up the receiving slack from Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe they use him more, in the slot, away from the line of scrimmage more. I think that's the adjustment that they'll have to make, frankly. And I've been screaming for years about how blocking is the second best thing George Kittle does. He's getting older now. I think you probably only have 1 or 2 more years of like peak George Kittle, but I still think you're there right now. So I would love to see him get the kind of targets that Travis Kelce gets, frankly. And I think that's how the 49ers would adjust.
if they were going to do that, they would have already done that. That's the thing. Like, Kyle's not going to change the offense to fit that. They have to have a dependable second tight end to do that, is what they need. They don't. They don't have a dependable second tight end. Maybe one of these guys emerges this year and they're able to suddenly use George Kittle in a way that they never have used him. He is 8 years into his career, 7 years into his career. They're not going to suddenly use him in a way that they haven't used him before.
They did once. And what happened? He set their single season receiving record for tight ends.
He wasn't split out wide. It was just Nick Mullins threw to him all the time, and he was getting open going down the seam, and defenses started covering him differently after that. After that, he became something that defenses accounted for, and after that, you're not going to get those big receptions.
He had 136 targets that year. He has never even come close. The next closest he had was the year after at 107. He's never even gotten 100 targets since then.
And who were the wide receivers? There's a reason why he got those targets.
Yeah, well, what are we talking about? We
have Debo and we have Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, you can still throw a lot. Like, there's no rule. This team threw less than any other team in the league last year. There's plenty of targets if they want to give him to George Kittle. How about you don't give Christian McCaffrey 385,000 touches this season?
Well, that's what I would like to see. Like, save Christian McCaffrey. Like, I know Christian McCaffrey does not like coming out of the game, but too bad. We need you fresher in the playoffs.
Although
we need you to be, at your best in the playoffs. So, maybe you play him early in the season quite a bit, but then towards the end of the season, if your record allows you to, then you start, okay, we're going to work in Jordan Mason here a little bit and try to keep you fresher. If we're up by, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, you're not going to play the fourth quarter. Get over it.
Well, that was the part that used to drive me crazy. Is they were beating the hell out of teams. And it's like, why are we still giving carries to Christian McCaffrey? Now, to be fair to him, he was good in the playoffs last year. Yeah. The Super Bowl from a running perspective was not his best game, but he still had a lot of catches and yards in that game. And in the playoffs, he's been their best offensive player, I think, personally. So I'm not saying that he was bad in the playoffs, but just in general, you can mix it up a little bit. The Niners have the depth. Continuing, fill in the blank. The best we can hope for from Ricky Pearsall this year is blank.
This one depends on if Aiyuk's in the offense, but the best we can hope for would be that he is okay enough going deep that they can absorb the Aiyuk loss if Aiyuk ends up trading. That's the best. Now, if Aiyuk is on this team, I think it changes. If Aiyuk is on this team, I think the best we can hope for Ricky Pearsall is he's the combination of those two. He can do underneath things, and he can also do the deep ball. And he gets, as a rookie, expecting 1,000 yards out of him with Aiyuk on this team is completely unrealistic. But we could expect him to be like a true weapon where he gets 600 plus yards, and he's somebody that the defense has to account for. And now you're screwed, because if you have Pearsall, you have Aiyuk, you have Debo, you have Christian McCaffrey, and you have George Kittle all on the field at the same time. It's a pick your poison.
I think the best we can hope for from Ricky Pearsall is Juwan Jennings 2023. As much as we love Juwan Jennings, I think people need to realize he had 19 catches last year in the regular season. 19.
I would say his 2022, where I think he had something like 30 catches.
35.
Yeah. I would say that's what to expect. Now, if Aiyuk is off this team, I would say, 50 catches, 900 yards as a rookie would be kind of like, all right, we absorbed that Aiyuk loss. That, Pearsall is able to replace him well enough.
I still can't, with Pearsall, I feel like what you're hoping for is that you got a guy that can separate against man coverage and make key catches. Like Juwan, 19 of his catches, he made 19 catches last year, but how many of those were on freaking third down, right? And they were big catches and extended drives and things like that. So his impact on the field was bigger than the raw number in the box score. And to me, that's the best you can hope for from Ricky Pearsall, who, by the way, can we please just get him back at practice? Can we please get him back at practice?
I will slightly alter this until you go to a new one. And what I want to see out of Ricky Pearsall, or what I would settle for Ricky Pearsall, is that he's able to take the punt returning duties and we don't waste a roster spot on Trent Taylor.
Right. Just prevent Trent Taylor from being. I think Trent Taylor will start the year on the practice squad. I really do.
I think what he will be is he's the practice squad guy that's promoted each week so that if they want him to return punts, they can. If Pearsall gets hurt, he can take over the punt returning duties. If, let's say, and I hate saying this, but say either Debo or Aiyuk is hurt and Pearsall has to take on a bigger role. Well, you might not want him returning punts in that scenario, so you have Trent Taylor take over. He'll be that guy that's promoted. And you don't have to risk losing him because, one, nobody's probably interested. Two, even if somebody was interested, they're going to call him and say, what? We'll guarantee you a roster spot. If he's getting promoted every single week, he's getting the roster spot anyways.
True. Next up on Fill in the Blank. Fill in the blank. If I had to choose between Malik Mustapha and D. Winters starting in week 1, I would pick blank.
This isn't fair because they play different positions.
That's the point.
I would take D. Winters just because I know Greenlaw's not going to be ready.
Yeah.
So that's why I would take D. Winters. But in terms of who I'm more excited to see, I want to see Mustapha against real competition. Like D. Winters, I've seen what he is. He is a raw linebacker with extreme athleticism. He's very, very fast. I can deal with that being our second linebacker, much like we dealt with that with Greenlaw 2 years ago. But I want to see Mustapha, and I want to see him before Hufanga is back, because if Mustafa's the real deal and he's looking really, really good, and Jair Brown is looking really good as we've seen, then to me it's all right, we'll work you in, Hufanga, but we're also going to be listening on trade offers over here.
I think people are a little quick to anoint Malik Mustapha. I know he made some good plays, but like he also
that's why you want to see him. It probably is true. I mean, he's a rookie, and rookie safeties are actually one of the hardest positions for them to step up, because they have to be able to recognize, is it a run? Is it a pass? Is this guy going deep? Is that guy going deep? Do I need to shade over here? Or do I need to shade over there? Do I need to get back? Do I need to cheat up? There's the safety position is the one that has ambiguity in terms of once the ball snaps, they don't know what they're doing yet. A linebacker, hey, I'm covering that guy. Oh, I got to cover this gap. A defensive lineman, obviously get after the whatever, get after the running back or get after the quarterback. But the safety has to sit and wait until he recognizes what happens.
Nick Eller, YouTube channel member, says, D. Winters, I'd rather see start. He can do less damage being the third linebacker. Mustapha as the starter can give up a lot of touchdowns if he's wrong. Look, D. Winters, he made some good plays, but he made some bad plays too. He was out of position a few times. He took some really bad angles that kind of opened the door for some yards after catch. I would go with D. Winters just because I think the need is bigger. Like, I don't know about Devondre Campbell. He was not good in Green Bay. I've talked to people that covered the Packers, because Campbell said specifically, like, hey, if you used me the way you used me in my all-pro season, we would be fine. And people that I talked to were like, they tried to, and he stunk. Like, he wasn't good enough. And so that's why they tried to change things up. So I'm not convinced there. I've seen Tashawn Gibson come in at safety and play great for this team. So I would pick D. Winters there. And, we move on from there. Hopefully both are good. But
I'll say this, D. Winters' issues probably won't be as glaring when Fred Warner's there next to him.
Yeah, well, that's true. But you don't want to be in a position where somebody's got to make up for somebody. Like, you want to...
No, but like, he's going to learn. Like we talked about last week. The things that D. Winters struggles with is recognition. Well, that comes with experience.
Right. And that's why, like, let him get as much run as you freaking, like, please let him get run, because he's going to have some kinks to work out, and hopefully he does. All right, next up, fill in the blank. When the 49ers play him in week 2, Sam Darnold will be
the starter.
Oh, boy, could you pick a more boring answer?
Sam Darnold, when they play him in week 2, Sam Darnold will be a turnover machine, will be on his back. He won't be good. I could say that. Will be not good.
I'll fill it in. I'll say he'll be Sam Darnold, which is a guy that's going to make a couple of good throws with some nice zip and some placement on him, but he's going to fumble the ball. He's going to put the ball in harm's way. He's going to be exactly who he has been for the past 6 years. They say the average NFL career is like, what, 2.5, 3 years? Well, he's had 2 of those, and he hasn't been good in any of them. Yet people can like like Dan Orlovsky, who I was arguing with on Twitter this morning, continue to talk about how, well, if he has a good coach and now he has good people around him, and now it's going to be good, especially because you really have to protect him. He's good if he's not under pressure. Yeah. Which quarterback isn't? Like, he's going to be the exact same person he has always been, and it won't matter. It won't matter at all because he'll have a couple of good games and people will say, see, he's good. And then he'll have a bunch of bad games and people will say, he was under pressure. It was a bad situation. But they'll just wave it away and that's fine. But that's exactly who he's going to be. And it's crazy to me that people don't want to seem to acknowledge it.
Sam Darnold is the guy that got a chance to showcase himself in week 17 or week 18, the 17th game last year. And how did that game end? Oh, that's right. He fumbled the ball while not being touched because he literally just dropped it. Did you see the practice video from yesterday?
Yeah, when he throws the pick six and he's
just hunched over he's hunched over, hands on knees, like, oh my God, I can't believe I just threw that. And it's like, yeah, that's how you should have been as a rookie. And then you stopped throwing those, but you never did. You just keep throwing them.
Right. Like, how are you still surprised at this point, Sam? Like, what has led you to believe that you are going to be any better? And the comical thing, too, about it is people have written this. I think Albert Breer has written this. Other people have written this, like, oh, go watch his game against the Ravens. Go watch that game when he looked so much better with San Francisco. And it's like, okay, let's go and watch the game against the Ravens. He came in with the ball on the Ravens' 31-yard line. And eventually he threw a short touchdown pass to Ronnie Bell. Like, he finished off that drive with a touchdown. Okay, good. The next drive, he goes down the field and throws an interception in the red zone on the 17-yard line. And the Niners obviously go on to lose. Not Sam Darnold's fault, obviously. But like, people are saying, like, watch that Ravens game like it was some huge accomplishment. And it clearly wasn't. He was 8 of 14 in the game for 81 yards with a touchdown and a pick. And oh, by the way, he got sacked twice. And that's supposed to be the game that we're holding up as a sign of improvement for Sam Darnold.
This is the game that was pretty much decided by the time he came in.
Right. Where the Ravens clearly were like, all right, we don't
look what he did in mop-up duty.
Right. It was 33-19 when he came in. And then when the Ravens actually started to play defense in the red zone, Sam Darnold immediately turned the football over. But that's the sign. That's the game that shows that he's improved.
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Make people like, this is what shows you how your demeanor and how nice of a guy you is heavily affects things, including your Hall of Fame credentials, because the media is a big part of deciding the Hall of Fame. Well, Sam Darnold is still getting talked up by pundits and stuff because he's generally a nice guy. Josh Rosen, who was a jerk, was immediately written off after his rookie year. Like, nobody was like, this guy could still be great after his rookie year, even though he barely got a shot as a rookie. Same with like Matt Leinart. He was written off after just a season because he was being a jerk and full of himself to the media. It shows you like how you treat the media determines how long of a leash they give you. And it's hilarious to me because as a former media member, I know you're supposed to like disconnect from that, but so many don't. And it just cracks me up. Like, that's why this guy in year 6 is still being talked about as he could be the real deal.
It's because people liked him coming out. And so they want to be right. So they keep blaming other things until hopefully they think he has a good game and he's right. But it's clearly not the case. All right. One more fill in the blank. Jim Harbaugh offered a coaching position with the Chargers to Colin Kaepernick, as I spelled his name wrong on the topic bar. Kaepernick, the coach, would be blank, Levin.
Probably not good. He was not a film study guy from what we've seen reported. That he wasn't the best at looking at the film, watching film, breaking it down. Maybe he's changed. Maybe he's capable of doing that. But generally, your best coaches who are quarterbacks were the guys that were, students of the game.
I completely agree with you. I think Jim Harbaugh is trying to do Colin Kaepernick a solid. I think he likes Colin Kaepernick.
He's trying to stick one to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh loves to do that.
And maybe that too. Remember, Harbaugh said Kaepernick, you could win multiple championships with Kaepernick. He also hosted Kaepernick. I think it was at Michigan. Like, he had a showcase for Colin Kaepernick. He clearly likes him. And look, Kaepernick took Jim Harbaugh to the Super Bowl. Kaepernick was a huge part of that Super Bowl run. You can say what you want about him. You can say he stunk after that. He was awesome in 2012. He had one of the best playoff games any quarterback has ever had against the Green Bay Packers that year. So I think Harbaugh probably has a soft spot for him. But like you said, he's admitted he's not a film junkie. Mechanically, he does not have what you would call prototypical quarterback mechanics. Now, he could spin that friggin' ball as good as anybody. He could rip it, but he didn't always know where it was going. So in terms of a coaching position, I'm not really sure what he would offer. He might be able to talk about, dealing with like sudden fame, because he kind of burst onto the scene in 2020. He became like a thing. He had commercials like faster than anybody. I remember that commercial where he's coming off the bus in Seattle and everybody's like throwing eggs at him and yelling at him. It was a really cool commercial. He like became super famous super quickly. So from a mental part of the game, he might be able to help with that, I guess, but I don't see it.
I don't see it either. And we also don't know what his lawsuit, his settlement, that was the word I was looking for. His settlement is with the NFL. Maybe he has to give money back if he actually does rejoin the NFL, because his settlement was over him being ostracized and the NFL actively not wanting him back in and doing things behind the scenes to not allow him to get back into the NFL. So if he rejoins the NFL, does that affect that settlement?
Yeah, I don't remember the specific terms. I can't remember, to be honest.
Well, it had a non-disclosure agreement, so we don't know all the details.
Yeah, I don't know. I know it was. I think Pro Football Talk reported him and Reed settled for less than $10 million, but I don't really know. I can't remember any of that. So, what'd you think of that?
Fine by me.
All right, good.
I'm not scared to be put on the spot. Lord knows I'm opinionated.
Speaking of opinions, I have made no secret of the fact that I have not been a fan of the work of the 49ers beat over the years. I've made no secret of the fact that I think they're soft on the people involved with the 49ers. I've made no secret of the fact that I don't think they try very hard, if at all, to break news. And I have criticized them quite frequently. And I have Grant Cohn hosts the show on this network every Wednesday. I've criticized them to his face. And I've asked him why they don't try and do certain things. And both he and Matt Barrows have said that NFL Network gets fed the stories. Well, there was a situation in Cleveland where there was a player that was accused of domestic violence, I believe. And the Cleveland Browns media absolutely grilled Kevin Stefanski about the situation. He tried to repeat the same answer over and over again, and they kept coming at him. So I tweeted, "Good job by the Browns beat. This is how it's done. The 49ers beat should take notice." And I'm just noticing as we did this show, Levin, that Grant has responded to me saying, "You can call agents and try to break news too. You're a journalist. Show us how it's done." I have some thoughts. First of all, Grant, I'm not a beat writer. So there's that. Your actual job, and Matt Barrows and Matt Mayoko and Jennifer Lee Chan, you are actual beat writers that are credentialed in the room with the 49ers every day. I live in Connecticut. Now, granted, I could still try and call agents and break news too. Fair enough. I do join the Zoom calls when the pressers are on Zoom, and I have asked Kyle Shanahan questions. So it's not like I don't do it when I get the chance. I can't be in the room every day. Again, I live in Connecticut. But number two, this is a classic 49ers beat. Throw up your hands. Ask someone else to do the work, just like you're doing with NFL Network. Like, what are we doing here? It's amazing to me. They're so prickly. All of them. Kawakami, Mayoko, Barrows, Grant is apparently upset. Don't get mad at me. Do the job.
So there's two different things here. You're talking about, hey, when there's a negative story there and you need answers, keep going after them. And Grant is talking about trying to break news, which is something you do behind the scenes. It's two different things. The press conferences, I mean, we saw some of it in the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl is different. I'll say that because there's a lot more media there. But from what we heard, that is the norm for the press conferences. You have to be called on. Well, guess what? I've been in some Division I press conferences where that's how they like to do it. And there was an arrest of a player the night before, and guess what happened? The media said, I don't care if I'm called on or not. The question was asked about the player being arrested. What were the details? The coach tried to sidestep it. Nobody waited to be called on. A whole bunch of people started talking. A bunch of media members tried to follow up that question to make the coach answer it. And they kept doing that until there was some kind of answer there. That's what you do. It seems like the Niner beat, at least from the limited glimpse we've seen, is probably too nice. And the problem is that you can't be the only one that breaks it. And I think that's part of the problem is Grant would probably be willing to break that protocol of waiting to be called on. But if he's the only one that breaks it, they will eventually be like, you're not following the rules. If you don't follow the rules, you're not going to be allowed in anymore. It takes the whole media working together to, I mean, it is teamwork sometimes. You have to work together sometimes to make the coach or the player answer the question that is a pressing negative story, because they will sidestep it if you allow them. And if you wait to be called on, guess what? They'll be allowed to.
So you bring up a good point. One, I was talking about questions and not breaking news, although to be fair, I have criticized them plenty for not breaking news in the past. So Grant is not wrong to take issue with that, because it's definitely something that I've talked about. But yeah, in terms of the specific questions, like that's, and Grant does, and I've told this to his face too, so I'm not speaking out of turn. Grant does ask questions that need to be asked a lot of times that other 49ers beat writers are not willing to ask. In terms of that, Grant is definitely the best one. The rest of them don't do it at all. Grant at least attempts to. But yeah, that specific thing was what I was talking about there, was just the questioning and staying on it and not just saying, oh, well, he already addressed it, we don't have to follow up and ask again. Like, no, pressing them. Press until it hurts. And Cleveland's beat did a good job of that. And, you know, I'll probably text Grant later and he and I can have it out. But he publicly responded to me, so I thought I should publicly respond. I don't think that's unreasonable.
All I take from this is you need to move to San Francisco.
Yeah, well, maybe in a few years. Can't really do it right now. You know, whole family's here. Don't want to take the kids away from the family, all that stuff. But maybe in a couple of years that'll happen. Maybe somebody in San Francisco will want me to host a show and we can talk about it. Like I said, I try when they have the Zoom press conferences, I join, I ask questions. I try to. When I get the opportunity to, I try to, in part because I have criticized them, because I think it would be unfair to not try and do that. You know, I don't want to be the guy that just says, your guys are not good at this. And then when I have a chance to do the same thing, I don't do it. Like, because I agree, that would be BS. And I never promise 100% accuracy on the show. I promise 100% authenticity. So I try to be the same person, you know, that I talk about wanting them to be, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. You know, I wish I could do this full time and move to San Francisco. Life gets in the way sometimes. It's not meant to be. I do wish that what we're doing became a thing a couple of years earlier than it did, because I left the media game right when YouTube, like a year or two later, I started seeing all these shows on YouTube. I'm like, well, damn, if that was going on, I would have stayed a journalist and started my own YouTube in the early days and tried to like supplement my income, because I left the media game because I was defaulting on my student loans. That was what pushed me out the door ultimately.
And then you became a blackjack dealer and all sorts of other odd jobs. And now you're the Homer Simpson of a gas plant.
To put it simply, yes, in a way that people can at least get the image correct.
You work in a blast-proof room.
Yes, correct. Technically speaking, it is a blast-proof room. I don't know how reliable that would be after a few years of it being there. But as I've said, to give people an image of what I do on a daily basis, it is a Homer Simpson job. 99% of the time, I am there to babysit and just acknowledge alarms. It is the 1% of the time where it becomes different than Homer Simpson, to be truthful. And you have to really know what you're doing. Otherwise, the plant goes down and now your company is losing millions and they're looking at you for why.
Yeah, I work in a basement. Completely vulnerable to blasts of all kinds. I'll just say that. 49ers practice has started. I have not seen any Brandon Aiyuk updates. Is he there? What color clothes does he have on? Like, this is I kept saying, like, I talked about that yesterday because that happened when I was live. And it was like, I know it's ridiculous to be talking about this, but like, this is where we are with this freaking story. It's crazy that's like we're reporting that he was at practice and what clothes he had on. And I kept saying, hey, can tell me about the clothes another wide receiver is wearing, being Ricky Pearsall. Like, is he out there at all? Does he have a blue jersey on? Like, I was more concerned with those clothes.
Can we get a media member to yell at Brandon? Are you staying or you're going? And just see what his reaction is. Because that would be pretty telling, right?
Yeah.
If he acknowledges, if he just never turns, never acknowledges, all right, you got nothing out of it. But if he turns at all or responds at all, whether it's a grimace or, whatever, you get some substance there to be able to get an insight into what's actually happening.
Did you see this? I thought this was funny. Seahawks had a joint practice, or not the
I saw this.
Seahawks. The Titans had a joint practice, and Jamal Adams turned to Devin Witherspoon and said, "You better get ready because San Fran's going to have that ass." Like, the Niners are in people's heads, man. And
I would have loved Devon to respond with, "They might have cooked your ass, but they're not going to cook mine." You know what I mean? Like, Jamal Adams is a big reason why the Niners have been beating them in recent years.
But like, that just goes to show the standard that this team has set, that other teams are citing them as a barometer, like a bar that you have to live up to. It says a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, the Niners are the class of the NFC. They would get a lot more talk if they had won a Super Bowl, but that's why they're kind of overshadowed by other teams, because you have obviously the Kansas City Chiefs, but I would say even like the Ravens are overshadowing them to a little bit of a degree in terms of like national conversation. And that's because they all have to play each other in the playoffs. Only one of those other good teams. I mean, the Niners are the only like really, really good team in the NFC, whereas the AFC is a bloodbath. You could go 6 deep there in the AFC. So that's part of why the AFC is dominating the talk.
By the way, we mentioned Sam Darnold and how he's going to start against the Niners in week 2. Did you see that Matthew Stafford's shoulder has started to act up a little bit?
I did. Matthew Stafford is kind of, he's like that old former great car that's just everything's breaking down on.
I mean, the guy has taken a beating. He has been tough as iron in his career. Matthew Stafford got beat to hell with the Lions, still takes a lot of shots. Even with the Rams, he's taken a lot of shots. So it's understandable if he's, it's not surprising if he is starting to break down. But if he could not play in week 3 when the 49ers play the Rams, do you know who the Rams backup quarterback is?
We assume it will be Jimmy G, although he is suspended for the first 2 games. So they might he's got to get reacclimated, or you know what I mean.
Yeah. Did you see Stetson Bennett the other day with his 4 picks? I don't think that they're going to go. Can you imagine if the 49ers go back-to-back weeks in 2024 playing Sam Darnold and Jimmy Garoppolo? Oh, my God. It would be great.
I would love it, because that means probably 2 wins.
Right. At worst, they'd be 2-1 at that point through 3 weeks. I mean, just like first of all, the Niners have no animosity towards Sam Darnold. By all accounts, he was a perfectly, affable, likable backup quarterback who helped out when he could in the meetings. And there's I don't even know if he would want revenge. I don't think he has any ill will towards the 49ers at all. But Jimmy Garoppolo, no. He has thrown shade multiple times at the 49ers. By the time he left, he and Kyle Shanahan were basically done. The Niners were going to drag Phillip Rivers out of retirement to start in a conference championship game, or a Super Bowl, rather, whatever it was. I don't even remember, instead of going to Jimmy Garoppolo. So, there is animosity with Jimmy G.
And as should be. Jimmy G refused to play and then wanted to come back and play. And he did his old ghosting act during the offseason, which what do we know about the NFL and quarterbacks? It's a 24/7, 365 job if you want to be great. Jimmy did not want to be great. He might pretend, he might tell himself, hey, I wanted to be great. I was fully committed when I was there. The problem is in the NFL, fair or not, you have to be committed the entire year. Offseason all the way through. And he was not committed in the offseason. He ghosted not just Kyle Shanahan, but all the players and everybody too. He didn't do workouts. He didn't do anything. So that's a big part of why he never progressed as a quarterback.
Andre says, let's ask Devontae Adams about Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think we need to ask, Andre. I think it was very clear his feelings on Jimmy Garoppolo. And you know what? Before we go, I want to mention this too, because we got to call Jerry Rice out. because he contributed to the Brandon Aiyuk stuff when he posted. I guess we'll find out tomorrow, meaning yesterday, will Aiyuk stay or leave? And obviously, we got no news. I don't know why Jerry Rice felt compelled to step into like everybody wants a piece of the Aiyuk story, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I have a theory on that post. I think he was probably told by somebody in the Niners that we gave him an ultimatum that here's your contract. You can choose to sign it or we're going to trade you. And that he was kind of given an ultimatum of pick tomorrow. And then obviously there probably was something where Aiyuk said, I'm staying, but we need to work on this. And he ended up being able to convince them to wait even longer.
Well, if you give somebody an ultimatum and then the time comes and you don't do anything, you've completely chopped your legs out from underneath yourself and you've neutered yourself because they'll never be threatened by you again. So shame on the 49ers.
Well, the Niners have already done that, right? Hey, we're not paying you. We're going to trade you. Hey, we found trades. We're willing to pull the trigger on these trades. And Aiyuk says no to 2 of them, which, yeah, you could say that the Niners would have made those deals, but maybe the Niners go, well, hold on. Actually, here's a new contract offer. What do you think before we pull the trigger on that trade? But the simple fact is they found a trade with the Steelers that Aiyuk was willing to do. And we've seen multiple people report just yesterday that they have an agreement that the Niners are willing to accept if Aiyuk doesn't sign their contract. Okay, so that means the Niners cave and have come up, which that's what the reports are as well. So they've already neutered themselves. Hey, we're not going to pay you. If you're not willing to accept this $26 million, we're trading you. Oh, we have a trade? Well, hold on. We want to pay you $28 million now. That's literally what's happened.
Nick Eller, we asked Nick earlier, why are you so confident that Aiyuk's deal is done? He said, physical for a contract takes a while. MRI and stuff, only 11 in the Bay. Nick, it doesn't take that long. They got doctors at the facility. They got all the machines. Like, if it was a holdup, like, it would be done. All that stuff doesn't take that long. It's August 15th. Even if
it would also be leaked. Like I said, one of the 2 sides is leaking the contract the moment the actual contract terms are agreed to, even if it's still pending physical. We have seen in the past a contract get leaked that it's signed and then it blows up because they failed the physical. Now, that was more a free agent coming in that had an injury that the team didn't know about. Heck, Jimmy Garoppolo. They announced his contract with the Raiders, right? What happened?
He
didn't actually heal. So they canceled the press conference and all that stuff. And they ended up changing his deal. But it was reported that it was signed. He had agreed to a contract. So in a negotiation that's been this contentious, they're going to push it out, whether it's the Niners or the agent. One of those 2 sides will feel like they won and they will immediately leak the contract terms
in as favorable terms for them as possible.
Right.
Joe Muzzy says Rob and Levin are the best combo on Gold Standard. However, Rob whines like a spoiled kid way too much. Not an uncommon refrain. People don't like when I complain. Sorry. Like I said, when things are good, I say they're good. When they're bad, I say they're bad. Generally, what happens is I criticize the Niners a lot in the offseason because I hate the way they do business. And then when they start playing, they're so good, I spend all season praising them.
That you're not wrong. Like at the end of the regular season last year, everybody was like, you're always positive. You never criticize the team.
That's true. Somebody pointed out, where is Diego says this team has even had MRI trucks injured. That's true. Remember in 2020, the mobile MRI truck broke down on the way to. So that's true. Maybe the MRI truck has got Ricky Pearsall syndrome. I don't know. Nick claims that the Aiyuk contract has already leaked. Where, Nick? If it's leaked, where? Because I haven't seen. I'm pretty sure we would have heard about that. I don't know where you heard it, but I mean, I know there's random people online saying a bunch of stuff, but that doesn't really count for me. I got to have.
No, I mean, this one has been. I feel like both the Steelers and the Niners have leaked things at times to try to look more favorable, which has caused reports to go out from lesser known people, more local people that have ended up being wrong. You know, I think the Steelers absolutely leaked that the deal is done.
Oh, I thought the Niners leaked it to try and put pressure on Aiyuk to
I think the Steelers leaked it because they wanted the contract. They wanted the deal to be done, and they had agreed to a contract, I think, with Brandon Aiyuk, and it was just waiting on the Niners and they wanted it done. That's why you had Andrew. I cannot remember how to. He's a local radio guy to Pittsburgh. He broke that the deal is done. You had Pretty Ricky leaking that the deal is done, and there was one other local Pittsburgh person that leaked saying that he heard the deal is done. Like, to me, that's the Steelers leaking it to try to get it done because they had agreed to a term on a contract with Aiyuk, and they had made a trade offer that they thought was good enough, and they were just waiting on the Niners.
Don't you think the Steelers kind of look a little desperate? Like, you're just going to sit around and wait for as long as it takes for this deal to get through? Like, shouldn't you, if you're Pittsburgh, like, put a deadline on this also? Like, hey, the season's starting. We're less than a month away from week 1. I got to know one way or the other. And by this day, this deal is off the table. To just continue to just sit around and be like, oh, whenever you get around to it, it kind of makes them look bad too a little bit.
It's always been a little weird because the Steelers don't spend high draft picks trading for other players. They don't do that. That's literally never been their MO. They've never done something like that. And Omar Khan, specifically their GM currently, is very like anti-giving up draft picks. He has stated that he does not like to trade draft picks in the past. So it's always been like a weird combo that, okay, the team that has no player that they're willing to trade in the trade, thus they have to trade draft picks only, is a team that has stated in the past they don't like to trade draft picks. That's weird.
And just supposedly some people say there wasn't even a first-round draft pick in this deal with the Steelers that contained only draft picks. So who the hell knows? We're sitting and we're waiting still. Every day I've done a live show. I've thought I'm going to have to do a live show right after this when the news breaks. And every day the news doesn't break. So you know what? I'm not doing another live show today. I'm going to reverse psychology this thing. I'm not doing another live show today. Whatever happens, happens. News be damned. It's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio pods. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Click the bell to get notified when we go live, which we will not be going live again today, but maybe tomorrow. We'll definitely be going live.
Rob might not, but if Aiyuk becomes official one way or the other, I might.
Oh, who am I kidding? You know. I'll be back. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.